Hi BookTube. I was tagged by Kelli at Kelli Reads a Lot. And every time I see that, I think Kelli reads a latte and I want a coffee for some reason. But Kelli, thanks for tagging me. And I am doing the Beauty and the Beast tag. All right, so welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas. That's me, I'm Miss Thomas. And if you like hearing about great books, clean books, Christian books, and I read secular books, but I'll warn you if they're not very nice, if they have some, trigger warnings or unchristian things in them. I think there's a glare on these, hold on. So I'm gonna probably need them right back on though. So Kelli, if you're not familiar with her channel, she is adorable. She reads a lot of really lovely things. She's kid friendly, so she recommends great books for kids and videos. She does videos about how to encourage kids to read, which I am 110% behind, because if you don't know already, I'm a reading specialist, and the whole reason I started this channel was to promote reading. So let's get into the tag, the Beauty and the Beast tag. By the way, Beauty and the Beast, favorite movie. I've watched it so many times. I mean, who doesn't love a movie about a girl who just wants to read books? All right, question number one. My, what a guy, Gaston. No one, something about Gaston. I love the lyrics of that song. When the one guy says, La fou, I'm afraid I've been thinking, a dangerous pastime, I know. There's your first clue. If it's dangerous for a man to think, you don't want to go out with him. And then I like when he goes, I'm especially good at expectorating. Let's put that on the resume. Okay, so a villain that you love. I think that's the question. A villain that you can't help but love. Yes, Gaston. I don't love Gaston at all. But yes, a villain that I love, that would be the monster in Frankenstein, not Frankenstein. I hate that cocky doctor. The whole idea that he is above God and he can create life, it makes me mad. But the monster that he created, I really root for him. I root for the monster Frankenstein. And I'm so excited because I actually get to teach that one this year. So Frankenstein, the monster, not the doctor, not Victor Frankenstein. I'm Team Monster. Yes. And I think it's debatable that he's the villain. I don't know, But anyway, if we're going to say villain, I'm going to say, the monster Frankenstein. I need my glasses again. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry about the glare. Here's where she meets Prince Charming, the one true pairing. Okay, I'm not a big romance reader. If I had to pick a romance, I'd say Henry and Edith, Dear Henry, Love Edith. I thought that was a cute book and I enjoyed both of the characters. But since I typically on my channel say, I'm not a romance reader, I'm gonna go with a friendship pairing. And I read a book called Crisscross and loved it. And as soon as I finished it, I picked up the sequel. So I haven't read that yet, but I brought it with me. I'm at the beach and I thought, well, I'll read it at the beach. I don't know. But anyway, the friendship, the girl's friendship, I think her name is Jace and she is in a wheelchair and she's just this neighbor and friend and I just loved her. So I would say Holly and Jace are my favorite pair. They're these two girls that live together in an apartment building. They're not roommates. They just live in the same building. And Jace is just nosy neighbor, best friend, and everything just rolled. Oh, and coffee drinker. What's not to love about a girl that brings you coffee? So I definitely would say the friendship in Crossfire. I love books with friendship. And then another one I would recommend is the friendship in To Win a Prince and In Search of a Prince. So, by the way, I'm at the beach. Those are some books I'll probably talk about when I do my beach. I don't think it's going to be a vlog. I think it's going to be just books I enjoyed at the beach. So those are some friendship books I like. That's to me the perfect pair. I love my husband, I love my sons, but I think the ideal pair is just friends, two friends that get together and have fun. I want so much more than this provincial life. Okay, a character who is destined for greater things? Well, that's a no-brainer. I gotta say Mrs. Kipp, right? The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipp. I think the fact that the book tells you in the title that she's going to die, obviously she's destined for really great things. She's a Christian, she was a missionary, she's moving on to the next stage of eternity, and yay, I can't wait to see what's there. And I would also argue that the journalist in the book is also destined for greater things, but obviously Miss Kipp going off to heaven, definitely much more than this provincial life. Be our guest. That's a great scene in that movie too. Be our guest, be our guest. Da, 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 da. A book that made you hungry. Okay. I really like those books with the cat, Elvis, I had told you about. Hold on, let me go get the one that I really like, because there's this little old lady in that book and she's always cooking. She's just always bringing pies and cakes and cookies and everything. So, this whole series makes me hungry because in this book and in all the books, the main character, Sarah, is a really bad cook, and this little old lady who works at her shop named Rose is trying to teach her to cook. And they're just adorable, the women in this book. And I just love how Rose is always bringing muffins and cakes and pies. And in this one, she teaches Sarah how to make gravy. You have to read the book to find out how she makes gravy. But it's just really good. And the whole series, it's so cozy and lovely, and there's just always goodies. You know, what's not to like about a really funny, smart cat and a sweet little old lady who bakes all kinds of wonderful things. Beauty and the Beast, opposites attract. You know, I had a hard time with this one. I think it's, again, because I'm not really much on romance, but I thought about it and I looked through some of my old book reviews, and I would have to say the Dial A for Aunties series, the girl telling the girl telling the stories in the Dial A for Aunties, Maddie. Maddie has this sort of straight man, this guy who's very he's just very, I don't know how to explain it. I want to say no nonsense, but he's not really no nonsense. He's a nice guy. He's a lot of fun. But I would say he's an opposite of Mehdi in that he is just more, I don't know, he's not as silly. Maybe not. Well, Mehdi's not really silly. I don't know. Okay, this is a hard one for me. Opposites attract. But I'm going to go with Dial A for Aunties, Mehdi, and the love interest in that series. But there's something in him that wasn't there before. A character who is more than they seem. Ooh, there's so many good mysteries that I could talk about. I'm gonna go though, I don't know, the books that I've taught are on my brain. I'm gonna go with maybe Holden Caulfield in A Catcher in the Rye, because he's so silly and immature, and then you find out why, and you realize he's actually got some pretty deep thinking going on. I don't know. Or maybe A Lesson Before Dying. The teacher in that book, he's so like in the beginning, and then I always ask my students when I teach that book who learned the lesson, because it's called A Lesson Before Dying, and the purpose was to teach a man in jail how to read, to be literate. Highly recommend the book, by the way, if you haven't read it. But the teacher ends up being more, having to do more thinking and sort of self-reflection and learning about why he feels the way he does, about, you know, his life and where he lives. And I don't know, I think that one, I would say Grant, the character in A Lesson Before Dying, is more than he seems in the beginning, because I hated him in the very first half of the book. And then as the story unfolded, I started to understand him. So I'm gonna go with that. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. I Was Innocent and Certain. Now I'm Wiser but Unsure. A book that changed you. Okay, this one, I don't know, I hate to admit this, but maybe I do, I don't know. But the book that changed me, definitely changed my thinking, is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And I if I had known what that book was about when I went into it, I wouldn't have read it. I would have said, absolutely not. Like, I don't have any, no. It's wrong, period, end of story. I read it and it really did challenge my thinking. And I say that in my review. If you want to watch that review, I'm very careful in the review not to tell you what the book is about, because again, I think if I went into it knowing what it was about, I would have shut my mind down immediately and never read it. And I'm glad that I read it because it did challenge my thinking. I could see the way the story unfolded. I could see that happening and I could understand the characters, and those characters behaved in a way I really would not want to understand, and I had to really think about that, and it challenged me. I say that I say that in a way I'm not proud of. I'm not proud of having judged someone by a behavior. But after reading the book, it really challenged me and it helped me to see that maybe I was being a bit narrow and I needed to open my thinking. I'm still on the fence about the book and what happens in the book. I definitely wouldn't recommend the book to a young woman, but maybe a college age woman or an older woman, I would recommend it. But I would definitely want to have some really in-depth conversations about the book. If I were recommending it to a younger reader. Yeah, I don't know, I'll leave it at that. It challenged my thinking, and I don't know if I recommend the book or not. It kind of depends on the person, but it challenged my thinking. The other thing I want to say about It Ends With Us is in the end of the book, there's an author's note that I thought was very worthwhile. If you're gonna read the book, read the author's note, read what the author says about why she wrote that book and where she gets her line of thinking as the author of the book. Kill the Beast, a book that you picked up because of the hype. Well, that one's easy. Let me take my glasses off for this one. I read and reviewed The Last Housewife, and I have to say, I really struggled with whether or not I wanted to review that book, because there are books I've read that I haven't bothered to review because I thought, this book isn't even worthy of mentioning. I don't want to get on here and talk about this book, and then even if I'm saying bad things, people are thinking, oh, she's read it. You know how they say any publicity is good publicity? There are definitely books I have never mentioned on my channel because I don't want to give them any publicity. The Last Housewife I read, and I multiple times considered DNF, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to keep reading because I need to know if this is something that I want to criticize. And I won't say never, that's a strong word, but I've always been on this channel very careful to be respectful and not say negative things. You know, if I read a book and I didn't like it, I might say that's not for me, or I might not mention it at all. This one, I made the exception and I made a rant, and I really struggled with whether or not I wanted to be a book reviewer who made a rant, because to me, I've never written a book, and I'm sure there's a lot of hard work that goes into that, and you're putting yourself out there, and I don't want to be critical of that. I made the exception for The Last Housewife because that book made me so angry. The fact that that book is even popular makes me angry, because it's about these girls in college that have this bizarre, violent, just extremely disturbing and downright gross relationship with this girl's father. And he's like this dom, and he makes them do all kinds of disgusting things like put their hands in fire and roll around in glass, and it's just ew, you know. And the book is written as if these women are being empowered by this, and I really felt strongly that someone needs to come out and say, no, this is not healthy, this is not productive. And there are women out there who are perfectly empowered, I think, like myself, that don't feel the need to roll around in glass to impress a man, okay? That was the first thing. And then there was some stuff about religion in there that really offended me, and I needed to get on my channel and say, if you really want to know what sacrificial love is, look at the cross. Don't look for people who are physically going to harm themselves, because that never ever comes from the Lord. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. If you want to watch that rant, go ahead. I struggled again with whether or not I even want to put negativity out there on the internet, but that book, I felt the need. And it's interesting because that's one of my more popular videos. And I thought, well, I don't know how I feel about that either. I mean, I think it's important to say what you think. in a respectful and productive way. But that was one that do I even want to put a rant out there? I don't want to be the lady who rants. And a lot of people viewed that. So I don't know. I did get some interesting comments too, and had some interesting conversation with people. And I think that there's also something to be said for that. We need to be talking openly about things, especially things like violence, because I feel like if we hide from it, then that just fuels it. So I did put the rant out there. It's still on there. I haven't removed it from my channel. That book, The Last Housewife, awful. Don't recommend it. So hopefully by saying that, people won't go out and read it. But at the same time, if you do read it with an open mind. Read it realizing that you are worthy of respect because the Bible says so. And you don't need to go around and degrade yourself to impress the opposite sex. I'll Never Shake Away the Pain, a book that makes you cry. I think it also gives you the option, a book or moment that always makes you cry. So I am going to talk about a song. To answer the question with regard to a book, if I had to say a book that always makes me cry, I would say To Kill a Mockingbird, in the moment when we find out who Boo Radley really is. And, Scout has that conversation with her dad about Boo Radley. That to me is a very moving passage in literature. And that's what makes the book timeless, is that, years and years later, I can still look back on that passage and get teary-eyed. But I also want to talk about a song. For my church around Easter, I sang a song called Why by Nicole Norderman. And I highly recommend that you sit down and listen to that song, especially around Easter, because I don't want to give anything away. But in that song, it's a little girl and she's asking her father why Jesus had to go to the cross. And she's watching the crucifixion as she's, talking to her dad. And when I sang that song at my church, so many times I would practice and I would start to cry at the very end of the song. And I was so worried that I'd get up there and sing and I'd break down in the middle of the song in front of my whole congregation. I did manage to sing the song without getting emotional. But it was hard. I mean, some people worry about hitting the right notes or remembering the words. And of course, all those things are important. But I was so worried about just breaking down in tears because why? Why Jesus went to the cross it breaks my heart. He went to the cross for me, for my sins. And when I think about that, when I really think about that, I just want to cry because I feel so bad, and I also am just in awe of the love that he would do that. So those are two answers because it does say moment, see? So I'm not exactly a rule follower. I follow the rules, but then it says moment. I'm going to say the moment in that song, Why. But also to follow the rules, I'll say To Kill a Mockingbird since this is a book channel. Last question. How does a moment last forever? A book that you have loved since childhood. I'm gonna say, and this is not Christian, but when I was a little girl, because I came to really start reading the Bible and having a relationship with the Lord as an adult. So when I was a little girl, I really loved Lois Duncan books, and they do involve ghosts. I don't know if you'd say demons, but definitely ghosts and some evil in the books. But Down a Dark Hall, I remember reading as a young girl and just being so glued to the book, and that's such an interesting debate among especially like people who want to promote reading. I'm a reading specialist, and some people will say, well, anything that gets the kid reading is good. I don't know, but I do think God is bigger. So I read some things as a younger person about ghosts and evil, and now I understand that, God is bigger. Those things did, though, fuel my interest in reading and feed my need to continue reading. So I still think fondly of Lois Duncan books and specifically Down a Dark Hall. So take that as you will. I'm not sure. I'm not recommending the book because it is not a Christian book, but I am saying that it had an impact on me and encouraged me as a reader. So total transparency. Thanks so much, Kelli, for recommending me and for tagging me in this tag. This tag is actually prompted some thinking, and it's been a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed, you know, looking through the questions. Some of them I had to really think about. I mean, I'm just answering them in a video, but I had to sit down and really think about these questions for a while. And I had to really go through some books that I've read previously in order to answer these questions. So thank you for the thought-provoking questions and that trip down memory lane. And if you haven't had a chance to check out Kelli at Kelli Reads a Lot, not Kelli Drinks a Latte, which is what I hope she does though, because life is short and lattes are good. But if you haven't, check out her channel too. Sorry, I'm still at the beach, so I blame my beach brain. I forgot to tag people. So I'm going to tag a new one, Kristi A. Cole, and she's a new booktuber. Please check her out. Katie at Paperbacks and Ponytails. Katie, I know you're really busy, but if you have the time, I know you're a Disney girl and you would enjoy this tag. Read for the Skye, one of my favorite booktubers I haven't been in touch with lately, so thinking of ya, Skye. Definitely with the June thing, I've been thinking of ya, and I wanted to send out some support, so Read for the Skye. And oh, Miriam Elizabeth reads. So those are my tags. Anyone else who wants to do this though, I think it would be a lot of fun. Go ahead. Bye for now. PSS, I just want to say, while we're here, it's so cool to watch these houses get moved back. You can see it was like right up in the ocean. And look how much wider the beach has gotten because the house has been moved back. Let me show you on the inside. I'll show you. You can tell they've been like lifted up and moved. I'll show you the under the house. All right, so look, here's how the houses are being moved back. It's so interesting to me. I like the sign too. I don't know if you can make out. Well, now it just blew up. But it's got this like man on the sign and he's holding the house. I don't want to get on their property, so I'm still in the right of way. But you can see they just literally put the house right up on some kind of thingy with wheels and lifted it. And then currently this is the underbelly of the house. I guess that it will be, I don't know if it'll be moved back further or not, but they've all been moved back. Like you can tell here too, the wood is new at the bottom because it was damaged from being in the water.